Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe podcast. I am your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Joe.
Oh, boys, Blade Runner Origins number 3 has finally arrived.
It's finally here!
Over 2 weeks. And Joe, I think this is gonna make you happy. So,
Ooh.
you start going to a comic shop, right? And
Yeah.
the owner, he sees your face every once in a while. Hey, it's a new
Maybe.
guy, right? Maybe he learns your name or something like that. He starts to remember it. Maybe you're on like the little pull list thing, and you get your orders where you don't even need to worry about if they're gonna sell out. They got them all ready for you. Well, Joe, I had a great moment. Let me tell you. I walked in the Brave New Worlds. I walk in. My man looks at me.
Hashtag not sponsored.
He looks at me and he goes, "Hey, Joe, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Wow, man." I'm like, "Wow, he knows my name, recognizes me." I'm like, "This is pretty cool." I'm like, "I'm really getting into this thing." I grab oh my goodness, Spider-Man Spider Shadow, and I'm like, "Okay, I got the email that Blade Runner came in. I'll probably have to remind him for that." I get up to the counter, and he already has Blade Runner for me, ready to go. And
Fuck yeah.
my heart filled so much. I didn't even recognize that it was up there. I went to go say, I'm like, "Oh," and then I saw it there, and I'm like, "Oh my God, you had it ready." He goes, "Yeah, man, I know you now." And my heart, Joe, oh my God, it melted. It was adorable. It made me so happy. I'm like, "Wow, I'm officially a part of the community."
Yay! Yeah! It's taken 4 years of my time, 3 months of yours. You've done it. You're in.
I don't know. I thought it was a really cool little thing. I thought it would make you happy because it's like, I don't know. It's cool. It's cool. Like I know,
It is cool.
like when I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, when I went to the card store, like that homie knew me by name. Homie at the record store knew me by name. Like coffee shop, like I'm I'm pretty dedicated. I'm loyal to some of the places I go to. So the fact that now I've kind of reached that level with the comic shop, I'm very happy.
Yeah, that it's always nice when you can walk in there and the guy behind the counter is just like, "Hey man," like he knows your name, he knows your face, he knows what you're in there to buy, that sort of a thing. It's wonderful. It's a nice little community aspect of the comic shop that I really enjoy. All right, so
Kick it
you
off.
have your Blade Runner to talk about. Yeah, I'm gonna kick it off with two of my things real quick. So we have indie and not so indie. We have Nocterra and Batman. I'll let you decide which one of those is the indie and which one is the not so indie. But let's start off with Nocterra number 3 real quick by Scott Snyder, written by him, art by Tony Daniels. The big PM. It's that thing again. Night has fallen over the earth for, I don't know, like 18, 20 years, something like that. It's a long time. There's some stuff happening. I don't want to dwell on this one too much just because, it's a pretty good series. Like, again, issue 3 I enjoyed quite a bit. We're continuing to follow Val, the main character, and her brother M. You get a little bit more of their backstory in there. You get some interesting stuff with some of the people that they're transporting right now. Grandpa Gus and the granddaughter. I don't remember the granddaughter's name right now, but it's not really all that important. There's some really cool visuals in this stuff. Like at one point they're in like a cave that's kind of used as like a safe house almost, and the way that it stays lit up is there's like fluorescent handprints inside of the cave, kind of like cave handprint sort of things, but they glow and it just looks really cool. So it's a pretty cool, interesting indie story, and it's got some great art by Tony Daniels again. So Nocterra, it's only 3 issues long, so if you're at all interested in it, pick it up. It's pretty good. Batman 108. This is James Tynion the fourth and Jorge Jimenez on art. Ooh, baby! I'm just gonna be repeating myself probably from like the last bit of my Batman book review, but it's just like it's awesome. I'm enjoying this a whole lot. It's cool seeing the new world that Tynion is building out for Batman. Because again, like I said in the past, we're so used to always seeing like your Mr. Freezes, your Scarecrows, your Jokers, your things like that. Scarecrow is in this, but he is one of the only original villains from like the Batman pantheon sort of a thing. Because again, you've got Miracle Molly, you've got Ghostmaker, you've got the Gardener, you have what's we call it, Clown Killer, Clown Hunter, that guy. He's not in this issue, but like I'm just saying, whole bunch of new characters in this. We get Joe. Remember Peacekeeper 01, redhead
Mm-hmm.
guy? You get the origins of him. If you remember in Infinite Frontier issue 0, remember the attack on Arkham?
Yeah.
Okay, the guy who was attacked in that loses a leg and an arm. He shows up here. His name is Sean Mahoney, and he gets picked up by Mr. Saint, the guy who runs, trying to make the magistrate program. And he's like, dude, how would you like it if I gave you back your limbs and you became the first in my task force and you'd be called Peacekeeper 01? And he's like, I would very much like that. And I'm just like, oh shit, this is the origins of Peacekeeper 01. So you get stuff like that. Batman, remember I said in the last one, he's like, the guy matches Malone, goes up to the door, and he's all just like, hey, let me in here. I'm here to be a part of the Unsanity Collective or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's Batman in a mask. It's like a deep cut thing from what he used to do. The characters in this immediately know it's a guy that's who he's not saying he is. They don't know who it is exactly. But Miracle Molly is all like, all right, I'm going to talk to the guy, see what he really wants with us. And she's just talks to him like a person, and they have this actual like conversation instead of just, oh, you're lying to me, now we fight for like 17 pages. It's like, no, they actually talk like real people, and it's so refreshing and it's so cool because she's all like, yeah, I know you're Batman, like I don't know who you are, I just know you're Batman in another guy's face because of the way you carry yourself and how we're like up on these skyscrapers and you're not fazed by this at all. I can very easily tell that, but I'm not gonna like try and figure out your identity or whatever. It's really cool, and I'm liking it a lot. And the art by Jorge Jimenez is so fucking god tier. I can't put into words how much I like it. So Batman 108 is good. I like it a lot.
Quick question. It sounds pretty badass
Yeah.
with the whole Peacekeeper 01 thing. So, if I remember correctly from Infinite Frontier, he Peacekeeper 01 ends up saving the nurses, right? And it like the building ends up like exploding, and he ends up being like a hero, right?
In Infinite Frontier Zero,
Yes, yes,
yes,
yes. So
he
he's a
ends up
hero.
saving some people. Yes, he's a that's how you first meet him in this is Mayor Nakano is like awarding him a medal for his service, and like he's in the wheelchair because he has lost a leg and an arm, and so after the service is when Mr. Saint comes up to him and is like, I have a proposition for you. And then at the end of the issue, you see him undergoing the surgery to have cybernetics be implanted onto the stumps and stuff like that. So he is a hero. So I'm interested to see what kind of arc he has.
Yeah, like what makes him hate Batman so much? I don't. It's interesting because it.
Well, the mayor and Mr. Saint are against vigilantes. That's the entire point of the magistrate and peacekeeper program in the first place. So Peacekeeper 01 is kind of like the first step in replacing all of the vigilantes of Gotham. So I assume that's where their rivalry sort of comes out of, and probably some personal stuff that happens later on in stories and things like that.
Okay, cool. No, this sounds very interesting. I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Yes. So
My
now, how about you tell me?
turn.
Yeah, a
My
little bit about
turn.
Blade Runner.
Joe,
Yeah.
this is the best Blade Runner issue I've read to date. Um,
Well, shit.
the cover I just love holding these books and looking through them. Titan does a really fucking good job with these. Um, Cover is really cool. It's the great dark blue, purples, and reds of LA. The classic Blade Runner logo, and we got our first Blade Runner, Cal Moreau, just kind of like in a crowd of people in the street, and it's raining, so it's that obvious Blade Runner aesthetic. It's beautiful. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
So where we left off last time was
17 weeks ago.
Miss Stahl, one of like kind of like one of Tyrell's kind of like side girls who kind of runs everything. She was picking up. Um, oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember his name. Um, but she was picking up the dude, the brother of the scientist who killed herself, because she's like, okay, we're gonna bring you in and we're gonna question you because I need to get some more information of what the fuck's going on, and I don't want you talking to the police. And
Mm.
Cal and Effie, who is scientist, the scientist who killed herself, it's her partner, like her lab tech. So Cal and her are on the search to find this dude and find the replicant. In the last issue, the replicant jumped onto Mrs. Stahl's flying car and basically took it down. And the issue ended with the replicant taking the brother's hand and being like, "Come with me." So this issue starts
Mm.
with Mrs. Stahl coming out of the wreckage, looking scary as fuck, covered in blood. Her dress is all ripped up, and she looks crazy. She looks like a crazy woman. And she's like, "Well, gentlemen, let's clean this up. We got work to do." And we then cut back to, I believe, is the guy's name Marcus? Oh, this is gonna bother me. Yes, it's Marcus. Okay, so Marcus is a brother. Marcus is now on a bus with the replicant, and we see what the replicant looks like, and it's this Asian person, and they're talking, and we're kind of jump into the middle of their conversation, and basically Marcus is like, how could you do this to me? Like, should I call you Lydia? And Lydia is the name of the scientist, his sister, who killed herself. And you're kind of like, what the
Hmm.
heck does this person? Is the replicant like exactly look like her, and he doesn't know how to feel about it?
Yeah, is it like based off Lydia or something?
That's what I thought at first, but no, that isn't it. What and what we find out later is that it looks like Lydia was made this replicant, and the reason the replicant looks familiar is because she based it off a person of a drawing that Marcus did when he was younger. This character he would always draw. What's his name? Oh my goodness. It's like called Mr.
Flipping
Sash.
back through the pages, gonna flip back through the comic pages. This is filibustering, I'm singing, so you can find the name in the comic book. Judges, let me know when you find that name in the comic book. This is getting really fun. I'm
Okay.
like singing into this mic,
It's
but okay.
Mr. Asa. So Marcus used to draw this person called Mr. Asa, and Lydia made this Nexus 5 prototype replicant and basically based the design off what Marcus drew when he was younger. So that's why he looks familiar. But what happened is basically they're calling it transference. I believe she transferred her consciousness into the replicant.
Oh, so Lydia transferred her consciousness into the replicant that was based on the drawing that Marcus made of Asa when he was younger.
Yes. And
Okay.
so, and you're kind of like, but why did she do this? What happened to her other body? Did she have to, like,
Well,
then,
any sane person would just want to transfer their consciousness into a replicant body, obviously.
and it took me a while to understand this. And you're like, holy shit. Like, and they mentioned the word, well, if she was smart enough to figure out transference. And I'm like, oh shit. She transferred her consciousness into this replicant, and the replicant who quote unquote is Lydia is trying to convince Marcus like, no, I am Lydia. And he's like, well, why did you do it? She goes, I can't tell you right now. I have to explain later. So obviously they're buying time, explain in
Hmm.
the later issues. But it's crazy shit. I was like, holy crap, like that's wild. Like, why did she do it? Why did she kill her other body? Did her other body die when she transferred herself? I don't know. So many questions. And we then jump back to Cal waking up in the morning with Effie. Not like they slept together, but like he's just waking up and she made him coffee.
Right.
And he woke up from this nightmare where it looks like he's on like this ledge on top of a building, and this little girl is running after him, and she's yelling, "Don't!" And then he wakes up. So, little strange. And Effie's like, "Oh, you must have lost someone when you were younger." He goes, "No, no, I didn't. Don't worry about it." And he's being all tough cop. And she's like, we gotta work together on this stuff." And they're yelling at each other. And she's like, "You're just a hard ass cop, all this stuff." And he gets all pissed and she leaves. And we start to find out. We then jump back to Asa and Marcus walking, or I guess Lydia, whoever you want. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna call her Asa, walking through like this kind of like market, and one of the replicants in the market gets beat by its owner, and then it fights back and throws like the soup that it was cooking on the owner, and Marcus is like, "What the heck was that? What just happened?" And Asa's like, "Calm down. I'll explain later. Things are happening." And I'm like, "Oh God, oh no." I'm like, "What's happening? Is there gonna be a revolution?" And then we have some like connection with Lydia and Marcus, where she's like, "Look, don't you recognize me? Um, I, I used the man that you used to draw when we were kids. I never stopped drawing him." And he's like, "Asa?" He's like, "That's right. You called him Asa. I'll show you the drawings and prove to you I'm still Lydia." And we cut back to Effie going into her apartment and finding Mrs. Stahl uh, literally destroying it, looking for evidence of what happened or if she's hiding any information. And she couldn't find anything. And it ends up Mrs. Stahl kind of like threatening Effie, being like, "If you're hiding anything, you will pay for it." And the final couple of pages are Cal going back to Lydia's apartment, and it's like this weird time thing where we see some of the Tyrell henchmen um, kind of like looking at the apartment and trashing it and trying to find stuff while Cal is walking up the steps. And when he finally gets in, they're all gone. And he kind of, you see this panel of him kind of pausing, and he's like, hmm. He then, this is so fucking badass. He flicks a lighter open, lights the wooder, like fire extinguisher type of things that are in the roof. They start
Mhm.
going, and the rain starts coming down, and you see these silhouetted invisible bodies with like crowbars and these weapons, and it's the Tyrell Corporation people. And he just smiles. I gotta send you a picture of this later because it's
Oh
fucking
no.
badass. And he just starts fighting them, and it's not like he's like, and they don't make it like he's a superhero. Like he gets the shit beat out of him, but he still puts on a good fight. There's this really cool
Mhm.
fucking full page spread where he's pointing backwards without looking, shoots somebody, and at the same time punches somebody in the face. It's so badass. And the page ends with Asa breaking into Lydia's apartment, and Cal pointing the gun at Asa's back and being like, "We need to talk." Um, and it ends right there, and it's just, oh my god, like the introduction of the whole idea of transference, the background of like they're kind of hinting at all these big things that are happening, and Joe, the way it looks, oh my god, this thing is so fucking cool, so fucking cool. I like this way more than 2029.
God damn. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, do send me that picture of the silhouetted in the rain or the fire sprinklers or whatever, because that sound like I love when you do like clever stuff like that, and then depicting it. Oh God, it's awesome. All right, so then is it time to talk about the Swamp Thing?
Yeah, Joe, let me hear about this because based off some of the stuff you were sending me, it seemed like it was pretty fucking cool.
Yes. So the art in this, we're talking about Swamp Thing number 3 or the Swamp Thing number 3 by Ram V, and then Mike Perkins does the art. And then I looked up also on the credits page the colorist Mike Spencer. So Mike and Mike, claps to you because good God, I love the art in this book. So starts off with Levi, not Ackerman. In an MRI machine with Jennifer because he's trying to figure out what exactly is going on with him. And he's a little afraid, so they're taking some scans of his brain, and she's like, yeah, no, see, everything's perfectly fine. Way, what the fuck is that? And his brain, like the images, I don't know if this is actually real or not, but the images of his brain MRI are kind of like changing into like seeds, and then like they're sprouting, and there's like all this like vine and vegetation sprouting out of the MRI images and stuff like that. And I'm like, Is that supposed to be actually happening, or is that like artistic interpretation of what would be happening? I don't know. Either way, though, Jennifer is like, I don't know what the fuck's happening. She opens the door into the room with the MRI machine, and the entire place is just completely overgrown with vegetation. Like something happened, and Levi was like, ah. And then they both get sucked into like a portal that leads them to the green, um, which is like the ethereal plane where Swamp Thing draws his power and stuff. Like other people connected to the green draw their power. People like Poison Ivy, who Levi now at Swamp Thing in the green. He meets up with Ivy, and Ivy's just like, "Hey, how are you?" And if anyone knows Poison Ivy, you're immediately like, "Why are you acting so nice?" Turns out there is Ivy, and then there's Poison Ivy. It's like a split personality kind of thing, where Poison Ivy is like the more grown up. I don't want to say evil, but like aggressive part of Ivy that is like to protect the innocence of Ivy. So Poison Ivy is like the big sister to Ivy, even though I still think they're one and the same person. It's just for whatever reason in the green they're split into two. Um, but so Swamp Thing, he's in the green and he's just like, Jennifer got sucked in here with me. I gotta find Jennifer. And Ivy's like, well, I don't know what the hell Jennifer is, but I'll take you to Poison Ivy and maybe she'll be able to help you out. And he's like, okay. Meanwhile, Jennifer is getting about to get stomped on by something called a Woody Woes, which was the image that I sent you, which is a massive lumbering. It looks like like a bipedal woolly mammoth, but it's made out of vegetation. And I'm like, that thing is like when I say huge, it's like 20 stories tall. It is a massive beast. It's about to step on Jennifer, and Jennifer is like, I am not into that. No, thank you. So then she's saved by Woodrue, which I don't know if you remember this at all, but from an issue of Justice League Dark that I talked about long time ago, not on the podcast, I don't think, but a long time ago, I was like, oh yeah, he's kind of like the evil version of Swamp Thing, I guess. He's like one of his big antagonists. And so for whatever reason, he's in the green. He saves Jennifer, and they just go off, doing their own thing. And so Swamp Thing talks to Poison Ivy for a bit. She's a little apprehensive to help him, but then Ivy is like, "Oh, come on, you don't have to be such a bitch." And she's like, "Oh, fine." And then another character shows up named Alec Holland. Now, Joe, this probably means nothing to you, but Alec Holland is the original Swamp Thing, or at least the most popular one. And he approaches Levi Swamp Thing guy, and he's just like, "Hey, so some shit's going down. We got to teach you how to be Swamp Thing." And the issue ends with that, and you're just left like, "Oh, okay, I'm ready for this now." It's very intriguing because it's just sort of like you're in the green and you're like, oh, there's all this kind of stuff going on. Like Jennifer's with Woodrue, and Woodrue has no beef with Levi, so I don't really know how that's going to play out. But I do believe he has some pretty historic beef with Alec, so I'm interested to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, it seems like it's a big setup issue.
Hmm. Yeah, issue 3. It's a 10 issue limited series thing, so they got 7 more to go. Um, but yeah, definitely setting up some stuff. But again, it was some interesting stuff. The stuff with the Ivy and Poison Ivy, I was kind of like, that's interesting. I haven't seen anything done with Ivy since like Heroes in Crisis a couple years ago, and that wasn't very good. And also, I don't think did anything with split personality. So as far as I know, that's a new thing with this book.
Yeah, it seems like taking a lot of classic stuff, but just doing a little spin on it. Um,
Yeah,
and it sounds fucking awesome. And that picture you sent me looks sick. So it seems like Swamp Thing's
it
kicking
looks so
ass.
good. Yes, I'm very excited. Like I've gotten into such a Swamp Thing kick that I'm looking into what you call it, the Absolute Swamp Things. Like there are 2 volumes that are out right now that are just these massive books that collect the Alan Moore stories from the 80s. I think is when those were written. Something like late 70s, early 80s. I think. But I'm eyeing those up, and I'm just like, I want to get me some of those because I want to like I haven't read the original Swamp Thing stuff, like the seminal runs of Swamp Thing. So it's like I need to get on that.
Yeah, it's Swamp Thing's pretty fucking cool. Which I
Yes.
never really knew too much about him, but this story sounds pretty badass. I am excited to see where it goes.
Hell yes. Okay, so in speaking of other stories, let's talk about what we're going to be picking up this week, or what we technically have already picked up this week because scheduling is a bitch. Anyway, Joe, I'm going to say what I got first because I'm just going to steamroll over you. Spider Shadow, which I think we both picked up. That's Spider Shadow number 2. I also picked up. I need to look back and try to remember what I got. Oh, Geiger number 2. So that's cool. And then Wonder Woman number. Hold on. What is it? 7. Wonder Woman number 772. So those are my 3 books for this week.
I only picked up Spider-Man Spider Shadow number 2.
Okay. And that will be what we'll be talking about next week.
Oh boy, and by next week we only mean a couple of days because we messed up the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm
So it
hard
will-
to work with.
I was also drugged up a little bit, and I'm not going to elaborate on that. Yeah, anything else you have to add for this week's edition of Comic Talk with Joe and Joe?
Read Blade Runner. It's so good.
Yeah, it seems like it's a pretty good book. I'm trade waiting because I'm OCD, and if I didn't pick it up in the first place, I'm like, I'm just going to wait. But that's just me. So, everyone, read some comics. They're good. They're fun. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, or drop us a comment, whatever you want to do. That sort of stuff. Always fun. I'll try to reply to anyone, or will try to reply to anyone who ends up leaving a comment. Unless you're a bot that's leaving porn links. That's not cool. Don't do that. Yeah. And with that, I guess we'll say we love you, we'll leave you, and goodbye.